Well, first, thank you all for having me here. You guys have great energy, I can tell. This is a day of firsts for me. It's my first time in Austria, so thank you. It's my first time being called a rock star, so thank you again. My original title of the presentation was The Future of Advertising, and over the last month, I've decided if you claim to know what the future is, you're fucking lying. So I've changed it to technology can change almost anything. So the New York Times, we are in the storytelling business. We at least think we tell the best stories on earth. And no matter what the future unfolds for us, no matter what technology comes out, changes the way that we consume media, everyone in this room will still want to read the best stories on earth. So our idea is still stick to that blend of great storytelling, the same recipe over the last 100 years, a mix of fresh, authentic, beautiful, and then think about technology and how we can bring those stories to life. So you're seeing here something that very few people get to see. This is actually a live view of our audience on our site. Not only in aggregate, you're seeing all 50 million people coming in, but where they're coming in on Earth. So, 50 million a month, 400 stories a day. We cover everything from technology to arts to finance to business. We are in the business of building attics, and I'm going to take you in here so you can see a little more. We have an R&D lab in our building where we take people through this demonstration. So in the center, you're seeing our homepage. All 50 million people are coming in, and all these various sections are the places they're going to. And this is what makes our site special. People crave our content. They go in, and they want to see things from art, from science, from business. And now we'll drill in a little deeper, and you're going to see here the circles are when a journalist is actually live creating a story in that moment, so a new article has popped. And then in green, you're seeing when people are coming through social, and this is how they map around the site. So I show you this, one, because I want to inspire you and show you how special the New York Times is. And then two, when you put your marketing hat on, I want you to think of a brand as a storyteller. And to win the hearts and minds of the New York Times audience, you have to tell stories of the same quality as our journalists. So that's why a year and a half ago, we launched T-Brand Studio. We are now a 35-person creative agency within the New York Times, and we help brands like Goldman Sachs, Netflix, the Weinstein Company. We've done over 65 campaigns over the last year. Tell stories, bring their brands to life. So I'm going to show you a quick sizzle reel of our work.
You get ready and you kind of have this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, I'm about to give my heart and my soul to this audience.
Whenever we put a new defense into place, the hackers will find a way to get around it.
When I'm in the air, it's the best feeling in the world.
I thought that people might come away from reading the book with a different idea about what really happens behind the walls of a prison.
Once you become a professional, you realize the artistry and what would draw people to want to see you is all the different things about you and your uniqueness.
You can clap. So it brings me to my presentation topic. We've worked over 65 brands over the last year, and when they come to us, a lot of brands say, I want to produce something for social, I want to produce something for mobile, I want to produce video. And what we say to them every time, we need to start with the story first, and then we will find the medium. When I think about technology, I can't not think about Uber. It is my favorite service in the world. I use it every single day. And then I think about the storytelling business with journalism. So I want you to imagine if you ordered your Uber car. By the way, do people use Uber in Austria? Say, okay, good, just making sure. I want you to imagine if Uber picked you up with this car. If Uber focused entirely on the platform and the technology, but did not care at all about the quality. Thank God they care about quality. But when I think about journalism over the last 10 years, there's been this obsession with the platform. Right? When I think about listicles and GIFs, the fact that technology will shape the information that we will receive over the next 10 years, and I don't think that's the right way to go. When we're in the storytelling business, you have to focus on the right metrics, and a lot of the time we can get distracted with things like page views and clicks and impressions, and the reality is none of that can lead to quality, and they're not the right things to focus on. In a world of infinite distraction, we, brands, publishers, consumers are competing for the one finite thing left in society, and that's attention. Attention is the thing that we need to focus on, and it's the one thing you can't buy. So when you think about it, you can buy 1,000 clicks from 1,000 people, so you may get a second from each, but you cannot buy 15 minutes from one person. But if we can focus on attention, that careful mix of great storytelling and great technology can come together, and you can win. So I'm going to share with you 5 practices that we focus on at the Times and show you some of the work, both from our newsroom and from our content studio, and how we bring it to life. The first of which, when we pair technology and our stories together, we can allow the reader, we can allow the reader to discover their own ending. They become the narrator. Here's a piece that our newsroom did on baseball fans in the US. Now, I realize this is not the most relevant for this crowd. Usually I ask if there's any New York Mets fans in the crowd, but there's probably none. So one of the more interesting things here is it gets you down to the individual county, and I can tell you that even in Alaska, the Yankees and the Red Sox are the most favorite team in the entire US. So this isn't just something we do in the newsroom, this is something we do for brands. Goldman Sachs, which I always laugh with them, is arguably the most unsexy advertiser in the world. We managed to bring to life, I would say, in a beautiful way. They came to us looking to both explain to an entry-level investor and all the way to a stockbroker how the capital markets function. So we created this 6-pane interactive where we saw readers spend upwards of 1.5 minutes on this page and get all the way to the bottom. So this was a huge success for them. Beyond just the reader discovering the beginning, middle, and end on their own, we try to say to advertisers, don't just use technology for technology's sake. The idea that technology alone doesn't build the story. And when I think about this, I was trying to find where to watch the World Cup last year. I looked for a map. Maps are the most probably overused visualization on the planet, and this is what I found. Basically told me that I can watch the World Cup where there's internet. We take a different approach to this. So this was before the elections. Our newsroom wanted to produce arguably the most in-detail analysis possible to try to predict the various Senate races. And the public information alone wasn't good enough. So we actually had the individual local governments fax us their maps, and then we created a robot that could both scrape these and their sites to produce the more in-detail version, and the predictions were astounding. For brands. So for those of you who've seen the movie The Imitation Game, we went behind the scenes of Alan Turing's life, and this is probably one of the most pieces of work we're most proud of. We actually produced an Enigma machine on the site, so you can type in any message, you can do this today, and you will get the code that you can share to your friends. And again, when I talk about attention, we had our readers spending 4.5 minutes on this. And for those of you who know Alan Turing, he's like the Michael Jordan for developers. So when they got the chance to work on this project, they were jumping up and down. Not only did we produce the Enigma machine, but if you saw the movie, Alan Turing gave a test to prospective coders. And we actually took that test and we put it in a crossword puzzle, which you can see there on the right. Doesn't look like it's working. Technology doesn't allow us just to make these stories better. It allows us to see things that we could never see before. And this, I think, is very relevant now that we're in Austria. This is the Kronos Quartet. It is a violinist and a music group in the US. We actually attach motion sensors to each of the musicians to map their movements, and beyond just showing the concert, show how they interact with one another. Taking that same methodology, we went to Cole Haan for the release of their newest ballet slipper, worked with the New York City Ballet, and attached a camera to the ballerina's stomach. Now, this story isn't just a video. It's a very emotional story about the balance between grueling physical training and artistic passion that these ballerinas go through, and the idea that really their careers are made or broken in a single moment. This was a huge success for Cole Haan, and it's actually running on their site right now. We don't just build projects at the response of an advertiser's request. We also go to them with proactive projects. So for those of you who have seen Orange is the New Black, we produced this for the launch of season 2. They came to us with sort of more of a generic request, saying we'd like to work together, but what should we do? We sent 3 reporters from our brand studio out, spent 3 weeks going to women's prisons, interviewing the inmates, and came back with a very emotional story about the fact that women's and men's prisons experiences are incredibly different, but yet the prisons are exactly the same. And one of the most interesting things about this, though it is advertising and it's from a brand, this was the 7th most read article in the Times when it was released. When I think about building something and then letting the audiences come, I can't not think about this. So for those of you, actually you probably haven't seen this before, so this is exciting. You were asked to introduce yourselves to one another. I want to get a quick show of hands in the audience. How many of you are single? You're outing yourself. Okay, so this article from our Modern Love columnist claims that if you pair 2 strangers together and you ask each other these 36 questions, followed by 4 minutes of staring into each other's eyes, you will fall in love. So I want you guys to do this later today. You saw who's single. This was one of the most read stories of the year. This is arguably the most popular story we'll do all year, and we took it and we produced an app, and the engagement on this is phenomenal. We're seeing that readers, actually the average reader is under 30 with this, and it's allowed us to reach an entirely new community. My last principle here is the idea that long-held traditions with technology can be broken. So when you think about our newsroom and the fact that we're producing content for brands in the brand studio, it would have never been thought possible to take something that they've created, work with the brand to make it better. So Google came to us for the relaunch of Google Maps, wanting not for Google Maps to be used just when you're lost, but to have something that you plan with, something you consume content in. So we took our storied travel franchise, 36 Hours, which, by the way, I noticed profiled Graz last year, so that was pretty cool. We took the editor's recommendations and we ported it into Google Earth. So now you can see Graz, but through the lens of Google. So you can go to every individual storefront. This has been an incredible success for us, and if any of you guys go onto your phones and Google this, you'll see an experience that's actually perfect for mobile. Google has been thrilled. We've seen over 750 days of time spent with this, and it's from a brand. So I'll just leave you with this. The idea that technology not only can enhance the work that we do, and it doesn't matter what disruption we talk about. Every day for the future, you will be yearning for truth. You'll be yearning for the greatest storytellers on earth, and that's the work that we're going to continue to do at the New York Times. So thank you.